everybody. Welcome back to Let's Chat on Sunday. It's just going to be me today with the guys answering your questions. We're going to be back to our old schedule, which is just every Sunday at 1 p.m. I'll either have a live episode or recorded, depending on who I'm talking to or what their schedule is. So I'm excited to get going again, and I thank you for allowing me kind of a brief reprieve to kind of evaluate, reassess, focus on my family, and all of that stuff. So I did want to touch on just a few things before we get started. If you can't, somebody just give me a thumbs up that you can hear me okay. I think everything's okay, but just in case. And so just so you know, for this particular, you see the kitty in the background, just so you know what this, what these kind of, he's going crazy in the background, what these kind of episodes are for is to answer your spiritual questions. And you're welcome to put in, if you have questions about what's going on in the world, that's fine. I'll just kind of change the question so that's kind of through a more spiritual lens, because this is a spiritual show. But if you also have personal questions, it's fine. I'll kind of rework it so that it kind of is more general. And so put up whatever you want and I'll work with it. So yeah, this kitty is a stray kitty that just kind of adopted us, and we just, it happened. Okay, so begin and talk about a few things that I felt like my guides wanted me to talk about. Some are harder than others, and some are more personal than others, but they want me to talk about it, so I'm just going to. So at the end, we usually do our prayer for for each state, but we're going to do kind of an overall prayer at the end if you want to stick around for the United States as a whole, because we have some things going on with the voting systems, people being intimidated, with things like that going on. So we're just going to do like a general prayer for protection and peace, and then we're also going to have kind of a general prayer for Israel, the Palestinians, Gaza, to pray for peace and enlightenment in that area as well. The thing I wanted to touch about real quick with Israel, and for some reason Kitty's just wanting to get in on this, is that I'm feeling like it's kind of, it reminds me actually of the energy of the US in 2020. Before George Floyd, you could feel that it was percolating. It just felt like everything, the temperature was rising and something was about to kind of kick off or happen. And then George Floyd happened and everyone hit the streets, and it was Black Lives Matter. And there was all kinds of, demonstrations and things going on that were really just kind of these bigger kind of anger energies. But it also preceded change. And so I wanted to say that's what I felt like is happening right now in Israel. So I don't know what is going to be kicked off from the recent and unfortunate and horrible deaths that have happened with the hostages, but it feels like they're at this kind of place where we were in 2020. So I just wanted to let you know that. There's a couple things that I felt like my guides wanted me to point out, to keep in mind during this period, whether it's stuff that's happening in the world, stuff that's happening in the United States, is a couple of things. One is that when things happen that are scary or you're angry about, or things that are just unjust, to remind yourself to not go unconscious yourself. And by that we mean to remember that you are an eternal spirit having a temporary human experience. Keeping that overview sort of helps you to not move into fear. And when things like this happen, or things that are happening in the world and happening in the country, and we have these really joyful energies, right, coming in, and some of these anger energies kind of percolating still. And the power structures are kind of, at odds with each other. So we're going through this, and as we're in this tumult, to remind yourself that you are an eternal spirit having a temporary experience. It will help you kind of pull back and not get so consumed with the day-to-day craziness, to exhaust yourself, to remind yourself there's something more going on here, and that all of this, whether it's positive or negative, is for our spiritual growth. That's why we're here. The other thing to keep in mind is higher order, that there's always higher order at play, whether we can see it, and we usually can't see it in the moment, but whether we can see it or not, it's always at play. There's always a higher order going on here that's pushing us to a positive place. You don't have to take my word for it. Look at history. Look at your own life. When have you learned the most? When have you grown the most? It can be through something really positive or a positive person in your life, but so often it's through the difficulty, through the struggle, through the hardship. We learn what we're made of. We learn how tough we are. We learn all kinds of lessons through those things. And so, and it's usually an overarching higher order to our life. And so they want us to keep in mind that higher order in the world, that there is something that is above all of this, that is keeping balance and pushing us forward and evolving us, right? It's how we evolve, right? Learning. Katie wants to go past. Okay. And so we have all of this going on, and higher order is very important to keep into reminding ourselves of this, because it's very important. The other thing, even in nature, you see it. We're in the okay. This is not going to work. You need to move. Even in nature, if you're standing in the middle of a forest, you can look around the ground or look around you, and it looks chaotic, right? There's dead stuff moving into live stuff, moving into carcasses, moving into stuff, eating other stuff, and it seems like chaos. And yet we know that there's an ecosystem here. There's a balance in nature that's always there. And so, and you kind of have to rise above the chaos that you're kind of experiencing on the ground level, and remember that there is something there's a higher order to this. And like I said, you don't have to take my word for it. You can look at your own life and see that. Look at history. You think about the Great Depression and how awful and horrific it was to live through, but what it led to was the New Deal, and we're still feeling the positivity from the New Deal today, right? Helping people, lift people out of poverty, and help people to retire with dignity and things like that. So there's always higher order at work, okay, even if we can't see it in the moment. We're also going through our own personal growth spurts and growth lessons that are not easy. And I'm going to use my own experience as an example here. And this is where it gets kind of personal, but I felt like, I need to do this, and I need to kind of be honest with you guys and let you know too that if you're going through similar things, to not be afraid and to lean into the lessons that you need to learn right now, because once again, there's a reason for this. There's a reason why maybe deaths are happening right now, and you're being put through the ringer, or things are going wrong, or you're going through a divorce, or you're going through losing a business or financial hardship. That these are lessons for us to lean into right now, because they're going to be useful in the years to come, that those lessons are going to be learned, and we're going to be on top of these things in the years to come. So our guides know what's coming for us, and once again, that higher order is at play. For me, a lesson that's kind of my whole life. My guides have been trying to push this lesson, and yet I feel like this year it's come to this kind of, listen, you need to learn this and you need to stop messing around. Growing up, we moved a lot. I've talked about this before. We moved a lot, and because of that, the shy, unconfident kind of kid that I was kind of naturally, especially being an empath, very sensitive, extremely sensitive, that added to it, and it made me cripplingly shy and cripplingly unconfident. And so what would happen is that I would get to a new school or a new church or whatever new situations I was in, and I would find the most confident, most outgoing person to kind of latch onto as like my safety, my life preserver. And they would be the thing I would lean on. So I didn't completely grow those skills I needed to grow. I kind of leaned on people. And same with when I was teaching, I would lean on my assistants, or I would lean on my director and assistant director a little too much, wanting to know, am I doing this okay? Is everything all right? Do you think this is okay? Not growing that. Of course, my confidence would grow, but not to the point it could if I would stop leaning on people. I did it in music, where I would, if I was hired to be the only lead singer, I would bring in another singer to sing with me because I needed that lean. I needed something to lean on because I didn't quite have the confidence to stand on my own 2 feet and just do what I did and just do it. And come what may, I could handle it either way. I could handle it if it went wrong, and I could handle it if it went right. And that's what my guides have been trying to teach me, is that I need to stop doing this. And I did it as a reader. I would lean on other people or readers or mentors to tell me I'm doing okay or tell me it's all right. I would lean on my guides too much. Give me feedback. Is this right? Is it okay? And I need to stop doing that. I need to stop doing that. So what I can tell you is that I have enough experience now. I know I'm doing the best I can. I know that if I have a fail or a positive outcome, I can handle both. So I'm learning that, and it's been an evolution. And what you may find is that you are also finally getting to the evolution maybe you were always struggling to get to. Embrace it. Don't be afraid. The most important thing is not so much being good, being perfect. It's being authentic, just being true. And so that's what I'm learning. And I'm going to keep learning it over and over again. I'm sure I will lean too much on people. I'm sure I will still lean too much on my guides at points, but I'm learning that, and I'm at least getting it through my head that I can do it. Okay. So with that in mind, I just want to let you know, I put up more orb mediumship appointments. This may be it for the end till next year if I decide to keep doing it. So I'm just letting you know they're there. I'm also going to be adding in, for the first time in a very long time, and probably just again through October to December, some psychic readings. These are going to be recorded. So if you want to have a psychic reading, you're going to be sending me your questions, and then I'm going to send you back a recording, which I kind of like, because then, our guides always know what's coming. And so in 6 months, it will still have relevance, even though it's answering different questions for you that you didn't even know were coming. I kind of like it in that way. So if I haven't put those up yet, but if you know you're going to be interested in that, just send me an email, and I'll just make sure you get the first kind of dibs at it, because I don't think there's going to be that many. And like I said, it will just be to the end of the year. Next year, I have a feeling I'll be going back to more mentoring and teaching. But this year, for whatever reason, I've felt this need to kind of move into mediumship and do the orb mediumship. So, and I kind of go where I feel I'm needed and what's going to be, and my guides know what's coming, right? They don't, I think next year is going to be a lot of people working on their abilities and their growth and trying to understand their own abilities and things that are happening to them. So that's what's going to be happening. Okay. So if you're interested in those few psychic readings, right now I don't do psychic readings. I just do them for the club. So, and just mini ones for the club once a month. So if you're interested in that, send me an email. I'll make sure you get first dibs, and then whatever's left, we'll go to whoever, wants them. But I just want to make sure people who feel like they need them, get them. And same with the orb mediumship. If you're wanting it, you feel like you need it, they're there right now. You can go. I have the link in the description. Okay. All right. So let me go ahead and start with our questions. And this is just my guides chiming in. If I can answer it myself, sometimes stuff I know or I've been through or whatever, so I can speak to that. So, okay. Hey, Kim, is there a specific ascension process that everyone goes through, or is it specific to the individual? Okay. So I'm getting it's both. It's masses through the individual. So it's the individual first that goes through the ascension process. And then as each individual goes through the ascension process, it lifts everything. They're also talking about the earth itself being kind of a living thing, a living, breathing thing that also goes through its own ascension as well. And so we're on an earth plane that's doing this as well. And so it's kind of all of the above, but it's also working in a harmony or in support of one another. So as individuals, they are kind of going through their ascension process. That helps the masses. That helps the earth. It's kind of all supporting each other. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Okay. Okay. Some angel channelers say the Earth ascension will have a flash of light and a 5D upgrade will be available for everyone at the same time and may be coming soon. What do your guides say? Okay. Flash of light. Okay, so this is interesting because they started by showing the northern lights. You know how recently, we could see it in places we couldn't see it before? They started by showing that. And so I feel like there may be something it's more kind of like that, in that it feels more like a explainable kind of earthly phenomenon, but it's really something more. That's at least the way it's coming across. So there is going to be something like this. And I don't know if it's being shown as a flash of light because it's just something that we're all going to kind of experience. But I feel like it may be in not quite the same form for everyone everywhere. It will have some differences to it. That's the way I'm picking it up. But I also believe that it's going to feel like it can be kind of explained in an earthly way in some way. And I think it's to make people comfortable. so that they're not panicking, or because I feel like it's all very positive. It's not a negative thing at all. It's a real positive thing. So it will be encased in a way that will make sense to us and that won't emit any fear. Okay? Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. But that's the way it's coming across to me. Okay. Questions. Does living in a house with someone who is semi close to the end of their lives, does mediumship get stronger for mediums? Okay. Right. So someone who is in right before they kind of moving towards transitioning. Um, so they're talking about it not so much as you just get stronger as a medium. It's kind of like it's an opportunity to get stronger as a medium. One way they've talked about this, I've talked about this before. I think it was might have been in the club. It was kind of a private reading, but talking about when someone is in the midst of transition or getting close to transitioning, whether you're a medium or you're not, tuning into that person's energy while they're still here gives you kind of a leg up to notice and be aware of their energy coming in as a spirit. You recognize the energy, same energy, you recognize it. So if you're sitting with someone who is still living, but they may be maybe they're just in their 90s, at some point they're going to be transitioning, probably before you. Closing your eyes while they're here, while they're in the room with you or around you, and tuning into their energy, feeling it, getting used to it, being aware of it. That will help you to notice it when they come back as a spirit. You'll recognize that energy and you'll say, oh, mom's here, or, dad's here. It will give you that leg up. So more than it just comes upon you, it's an opportunity. But they're explaining it as like, it's an opportunity for anybody. It's not just people that are kind of more, more wired for mediumship. It's for anybody. And so if you have that opportunity to be with someone who's transitioning, or you work in hospice or anything like that, you have the opportunity to have these experiences and to kind of build and grow your mediumship abilities. Of course, if you're a medium, it will grow as well, but it's for anybody. It's for everybody. Okay. Okay. So Craig says, and Craig, I think, is in our psychometry class. So this is very interesting. So Craig says, Kim, I did as you said. I placed my hands on a house that was for sale. I asked, what can you tell me? I saw a young lady who looked like Grace Kelly with 2 kids. And they were happy there about 1953. So yeah, that is exactly how psychometry works. That's exactly how, places, everything is energy, right? And objects hold energy in them. They can tell us stories. They can give us information. They hold memories of the people who owned them, of the people who were there, of the people who built them. It's all in there. And when you ask a question like Craig is asking, what can you tell me? And this is what came through is exactly how this works. What where your vibration is the kind of stuff you're going to pick up, which is great because that's going to be the most helpful to you. It's the stuff that resonates with you or makes sense to you. And I know that Craig loves the movies, and I know that he loves certain time periods of film, and the fact the woman looked like Grace Kelly was telling him something, right? She looked like Grace Kelly. What was Grace Kelly all about? Well, she was dignified, and she, all the traits of Grace Kelly. It was giving him information, and also information that was kind of within his vibrational understanding and knowing. and giving him information that he would know how to interpret. And so that's perfect, Craig. That's exactly how you do it. And psychometry is something anybody can do. You know, we talked about it, and we're going to have our discussion coming up on, I think tomorrow, and we'll be discussing our class and the homework. But that's exactly how you do it, Craig. Exactly. Okay. Okay, Gina. Question: how do we know we have learned all we can from a difficult situation? Okay. So they're saying there's a natural, uh, like moving on and moving away from the situation in a way that is very natural when we have kind of gained all we can from it. It doesn't mean you forget. It doesn't mean it still doesn't have an impact, but but the intensity is not the same. So they're saying that when you have learned everything you can from a difficult situation, there'll be kind of a natural moving on, or kind of letting it go, that is not forgetting it completely, because it may still come back, you know, at different times, but there's kind of a releasing and letting go of it, so that it doesn't have the intense role that it has in your life when it happens, the gravity of it happening. So take the example of like a divorce, right? When you're in the middle of it, it feels like chaos. It feels like your world's collapsing. It feels like you don't know what's coming. What you thought was going to be your life isn't your life anymore. And and then as you start to move out of it, you start to learn the lessons. Oh, you know, I need to know when to let things go. Maybe we should have let this go a couple of years earlier. We stayed too long. And I know I can trust myself to make good decisions, even though this one didn't work out. You start to put these lessons in place. And when you get to the point where, okay, I kind of learned all I can from it, there'll be kind of a natural sort of letting go and moving on. And it doesn't mean you forget your divorce. And it doesn't mean it may come into play, you know, again later. Maybe something will come back to you or something, but it won't have the intensity, the intense place in your life that it has as you're learning, as you're growing, as you're understanding. And bigger things they have bigger lessons, obviously, right? So they can stay and linger a little bit longer in almost an annoying way, because you don't want to feel pain anymore, and you don't want to feel hurt anymore, and you don't want to feel these things. And so it's a matter of leaning in to learning all that you can. And sometimes they just said, sometimes there has to be an active willingness for us to let it go. When it comes to people, like letting people go, whether they just ghost us, to like leave our life, or they pass away, there's a part of us that needs to let them go. And it's not letting them go as a spirit, because right, we know that the relationship can continue as a spirit, but letting go of the physical, the physical aspect of them, because that's not who this physical body is. Temporary. It's not who any of us are. We get attached to it because it is obvious to our five senses, right? We can see it, we can feel it, we can hear it. It's very comfortable. We know they're there. We can hug them. When they leave the physical body and they're in spirit, we have to grow outside of our five senses. It's incumbent upon us. They're fine. They can see us. They can see the spirit realm. They can see the heavenly realms. They can see everything. And they also know, things come back to them that are kind of, we're still kind of veiled to while we're here. We're still in our experience, right? Think of someone who graduated high school and people who are still in high school, right? People who have graduated are like, oh man, all the drama, all the stupid stuff, all the little things, all the blah, now I'm onto this and I put that in me, but the people in it still are in it. I mean, they are mad at this person and they're mad this person didn't ask them to prom and they're involved in all of the stuff, right? It's a similar thing. When they move on, they've moved on from all of it, but we're still in it. And so it's very all-consuming to us. So there's a part of us that needs to allow them to move on to the next phase they're on. And for us to get used to the idea that they're still around us in spirit. They're still around us. They have not gone anywhere. But it's just we can't perceive them the way we once did. And in fact, they're saying right now that when you do that, what happens is that you perceive them more as their spirit self, as you let go of that physicality. And not in like you never existed, but just you're kind of letting it, you're accepting the now. You're accepting what is now. They're not here anymore. They're not physically here anymore. Once that comes more and more a trusted reality and kind of you have trust in what's happening, all of a sudden that door becomes much more apparent, much more obvious. And sometimes that letting go needs to happen for this door to open. And it's one of the hardest things to do. It's like I said, it's the only way we know them, right? The physical. So letting go of that is you really have to have trust in the spirit realm that they're there and they're going to catch you, and they will. But that is how you know, is when the intensity lessens and also you feel maybe steady enough to kind of give yourself that grace to let the physical go and embrace the spirit. Okay. So I hope that's clear, Gina. And I really felt the presence of spirit in that answer. So I hope that helps. Okay, and Jane has another question. Do ascended masters like Jesus have, I think it's spirits. Do they have spirits? Questions, do ascended masters like Jesus have spirits? Yes. Yes, they do. I think that's what you're asking. If you're asking if they exist as spirits, yes. As energy, we all do. It's our natural art in spirit or as energy forms. That's our natural form. That's our natural form. And so, yes, they do. And that's their natural form. And if they were here for a time on earth, if they are, saints or spiritual teachers, I think they had a physical form, they just go back to their spiritual form. And same with ascended masters. The only difference is that maybe ascended masters have never been physical. They're just on the other side. They're just kind of, they're helpful to the people on earth, but they're not actually on earth. They're not actually physical on earth. They're more just kind of the helpers on the other side. They're spiritual helpers or angels. But yeah, and it's more, they're more, instead of me saying spirits, they're kind of making me feel like I need to say like energy form, and that's what we all are. And the more ascended, or the more different their energy form is. So for example, if you came across a spirit that has been to earth many times, in fact, Christian, our friend Christian, who talked about his pre-birth experience, he talks about this. This is what made him want to come to earth as a spirit, was he came across a spirit and he said, how are you this? How do you look so different? How are you this kind of energy form? And he says, because I've been to earth and this is done now, this is what I am. So it's all, and it's this idea of evolution, and growth and expansion, right? That's what we're always doing, growing, expanding, learning, being creative, like creating, right? That's all in our nature as spirits. Okay. Okay, that was the rest of the question. Sorry. I think I answered it though. Question, you have spirit. Oh, spirit guides when they walk the earth. Yes, absolutely. Positively. Yes. When they walk the earth, they absolutely have spirit guides. It is the one thing that kind of connects all of us. There's a lot of things that connect all of us, but one of them is that we all are connected to the other side. And maybe they have, maybe a spirit like Jesus might have ascended masters or something higher, just helping that spirit rather than more like, I feel like a lot of our spirit guides are kind of equal with us. Like they're like almost like buddies, friends, people that know us really well. I've had lifetimes with us. There's something that's kind of samey about spirit guides with our spirit. But then you have these other guides that are just more knowledgeable, more knowing, have had more experiences or more, they have more understandings. And they're plugged in a way that is a little more ascended. they have more things that we may not even, maybe we wouldn't even come across in our lifetime, depending on who we are, So with someone like Jesus is going to come across a lot different. They're going to come across different kinds of experiences than just, a farmer living in Iowa their whole life. You know what I mean? So they have to have a certain amount of they have to have a certain level of, and that's just a way to put it in earthly terms to understand, but a certain level of spirit that's going to be able to guide them in that life. And so, and you can even imagine like a president, might have some different kinds of maybe even historical figure guides that are helping them, or in like Trump's case, trying to help them. I had a reading one time when Richard Nixon was following Trump around the White House, trying to get him to understand some of the things that he was doing, that and some of the ways it might come back to hurt him, even in his spiritual growth. Right? Everybody has spirit guides. Everybody, whether they listen, whether they're in tune or not, is a complete other thing. But we all have them, and when you're in whatever, depending on the situation you're in, those are the level of guides that you have. At least this is the way that they're explaining it. And Craig says, I look rested. Yeah, we went, my favorite place, is the beach, the water. We went down the coast last week and it was really, really nice. Over the last month, and again, going through difficulty with Cassie's health, with my own health, Adam and I both got COVID. You kind of, you have to have that toolbox that you open. Getting by water. I've meditated more in the last month than I have in ages. I've needed more silence, more quiet, really being careful and conscious about the choices I'm making, whether it's the stuff I'm putting in my body or the stuff I'm watching on TV, stuff I'm reading, stuff like that. All of that has just been, heightened so much in the last month or a couple of months. And it's been to help me get through, pull out the tools that I need to get through certain things, that I talked about that are, and taking a break was one of those things that I needed, that I felt like I needed to help me get over this hill of hard things of life, hard thing. Everybody goes through hard things. So it's not any different. Juanita, I am new here. What are my spiritual gifts? Okay. So first of all, Juanita, what I'd like you to do is, if you're new here, how did you find us? Go back and think about what brought you here. How did you find this? What made you kind of click on? Because what happens is that our guides are speaking to us all the time, whether it's clicking this video or this video, getting online or not getting online, being kind of drawn to certain subjects or not drawn to other subjects. So we're in this constant conversation with our guides. And so that's going to tell you one way to recognize some of your spiritual gifts, but you're here, right? So now you're asking this question, what are my spiritual gifts? I would say one that's coming across right now that you, and how you got here is the gift of knowing, claircognizance, that feeling of, I know, but I don't know how I know, or I'm going to do this thing, but I don't know why I feel that, but I'm just going to do it. Or I meet a person and I'm not sure why I don't feel comfortable with them, or I don't like them, but I just know that I need to be careful. So one of your gifts, and one of the gifts that got you here, is that gift of knowing. I don't know how I know, I just know. And along with that, I just want to let you know, and let anyone else know who's dealing with claircognizance as a gift, is that it is a powerful, great, and I would say gift, ability, right? It's an ability. Everybody has abilities. But when you know your dominant ability, it's great because you can work through that ability, and you can kind of know how to watch for that feeling of knowing. And usually a lot of times it happens kind of in the gut, or in that kind of space where either, the no would be kind of like your stomach dropping, or kind of a sick feeling, or like, oh, I just don't want to, that fear coming in, or not even fear, more like dread. It almost feels like a dread feeling. When you feel good about something, it feels exciting. It feels like butterflies. It feels like anticipation. It has a happier feel. So looking for those kind of physical things that might come over you. But the other thing that is a difficult thing about what I would call a knower, or a person with claircognizance, is that a lot of times they're skeptics. And not just skeptic, regular skeptic. We should all be skeptical on some level, but they need proof. They like proof. They like physical proof. They like to be sure they don't be made a fool of. They have that as well. A lot of that as well. So I always tell them that a good tool for a person who's just tapping into their knowing is a pendulum, a yes and no tool. A pendulum, dowsing rods, because what they can do is start to build that trust that can be a little hard for claircognizant people. And what you're going to want to do is get a pendulum, get dowsing rods, and start asking questions that are of no consequence. Is it going to rain tomorrow? Am I going to, is this friend going to contact me in the next week? Things that are of no consequence, things that are not life and death, or really dramatic, things that are just whatever, because that way you won't be biased. You'll just kind of be letting it happen as it happens. And then trust the answer you get. Just trust the answer you get. Don't do 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 5, because that's also a claircognizant thing. Just go with the answer you get, and build that trust that way. So that's what I have for you, Juanita. Okay. All right. Hello, everybody. Hello. Marcy's here and Tina's here. Okay. Hi, Kim. Just wondering how we can begin to communicate with our pets, since they are now embraced as part of our family. And this can go to one of the exercises that we use in psychometry is shifting our awareness to our pet. And the way that you shift your awareness, so you would put your hands on your pet, and what you would do is become aware of the space where your hand is meeting your pet. And how do you shift your awareness, right? A good one that I use in the class is to take your hand, put it on a flat surface, and ask yourself, without looking at my hand, without moving my hand, how do I know my hand is still there? And what happens then is you shift your awareness to your hand and you start to feel tingles, or you feel throbbing in your fingers, or you might feel an itch or something like that. So you'll start to feel, and the way you're feeling that and tuning into that is you're shifting your awareness to your hand. And so in that way, you're gonna, let's just pretend like this is your dog. You're gonna put your hand on your dog, and this, where your hand is meeting your dog is where you're gonna shift your awareness. And then as you get there and you can feel like the fur and you're completely in that space, you're going to move your awareness up and into your pet. And then just ask the questions you want to know. How are you? How do you feel? And then trust what comes. And it may come in pictures. It may come in just a knowing, I can tell they're hungry or whatever. And it's also, again, building that trust with the spirit, with your pet, and with yourself. It has to be that trifecta. It's kind of got to be all of those things. And it's good to do these things when there is not something life or death happening. Don't wait till your pet is ill or on death's door to do these things. Do it when they're just any day. Just pick a day and just put your hand there, shift your awareness, and go up into your pet, and then ask a question. How are you? What's going on? Do you feel okay? And also sending them messages as well. Putting their hands on and letting them know you love them. Things like that. So testing these things, trying them out, and doing what works, and getting comfortable with the process when you're not in crisis mode. What usually happens, what many people do, what we've all done, is connect with our guides for the first time when we're in crisis, with life or death, praying, to God when we're in crisis or something's going on. It's so important to build that conversation, communication, relationship, trust, when it's just mundane, when nothing's going on. When you build it, then kind of build the muscles, then the muscles are in shape when something does hit the fan. You have that toolbox to go into. You know what works. You know what feelings you have when it's yes or no. So this is why just doing exercises is important when you're just, doing different psychic exercises or exercises to build, like we did exercises for psychometry, we did homework. When it's just important to do those things because it builds the muscles so that the muscles are in shape when you really need them. That's the whole point. And most of the time we're not in crisis. Most of the time life is just life. And we hit those crisis points and it can last for a while. And having that connection already built and established just makes it so much easier. It doesn't make it perfect. It's still hard. Life is still hard. It's still difficult. You still have moments of doubt and moments of anger and sadness and worry and things like that. But you have when that connection is established, it makes it so much easier. I was talking about this with Dave, how it just makes life softer in some way. It just softens it. Nothing's quite as harsh. Even the hardest stuff isn't quite as harsh. It gives you, it kind of puts you encased in kind of a pillow around you when it comes to life. You're still getting knocked around by life. You still, you still feel it, but it's not as harsh. It's not as hard. It's softer. And so that's what you're building the muscles for, is for those times you really, really need it. Yeah. Everyone's saying hi to Kitty. He's back on the chair right now. He finally calmed down. Could be the spirit of Lucy. Because remember how Lucy used to get on camera? That was so important for her to get out front and on camera whenever I click on so we could have some energy blending with the spirit of Lucy. with this kitty. So, because he doesn't do that normally, he really doesn't. Okay, and Linda C is kind of bringing a political thing. It feels to me that the political landscape shifted when Walls first voiced the energy of joy. Joy is where the miracles happen. What do your guides say? What do your guides have to say on this shift? Okay, so we're going to ask about this injection, what the injection of joy does. Let's ask that. So they're talking about, it's not that it's enthusiasm, it's joy, it's also hope. Seeing a different way, and seeing that a different way is possible. So they're talking about that as well. So it's not just joy that they've brought in; it's all of these other things as well. And it's creating. They're saying it's creating a door to a different reality, to a different space. We might call it a different timeline, or a different energy line that we can follow. It opens the door to that. So when we're, and they're also saying that it's very it attracts. There's something about the opposite of that can attract some, but it mostly repels. It doesn't actually attract people in. It attracts some people in who are kind of at that level. So it kind of, they resonate with it to some level. So if there's an anger here and they're an angry person, or they're angry most of the time, it will resonate. So some people will be attracted to that, but most people who aren't angry all the time, it will kind of repel them. And they're saying that it's almost like we didn't quite have a place to go if we were repelled by this. It's kind of like, okay, now what? Now where? We don't like this, but where do we go? This has given us something that is attracting all of those people that are ready and that are resonating with that. And it's just more people. They're saying we have more people on the earth that right now that are hopeful and joyful and creative and want to be uplifted. Even if they're not quite there, they want peace. They want to be uplifted. Maybe they are in a situation where there is war around them, or there is, famine or disease or things, and although they're in this, their spirit is resonating at a place that doesn't want that. So it's kind of like it does, even though it's in it, it's not resonating with it. And so as soon as that opening is there, they know where to go. It's like they know where they know they have something finally to kind of attract them. So what we're seeing is that all of the people not resonating with this, but not quite sure where to go, are being that energy is being awakened and then pulled in. So it's going to be very interesting, and they're saying there's just more of those people. Not just in our country, but on the earth right now. There's more of those people than there are the mean, hateful people that are attracted to that. And even that, they're saying it's those kinds of things are temporary in people's lives. They're not angry their whole life. They're not miserable their whole life. Maybe there's a few people that are, but most people, it's up and down. It's when these things are introduced, when they're in that space, right? Because we're even seeing right now that there are people that have been in this space a long time, and they're kind of waking up out of it. It's like they're not in that space anymore. Maybe things have improved in their life, or they're tired, or they're exhausted, or they want something different. So they're kind of, the resonance is changing, and they're looking for something else. Okay, so that's what they're saying, and it does make sense to me. It's also kind of enlightening, because that's not. Yeah, I didn't understand how that was, but thank you for that question, Linda, because that's important for us to know right now. Yes, everything's good. Say, love you. We're gonna knock on wood. Everybody's good. and doing well right now. Cassie's stable, we're stable, everything's stable. We're just, doing life. Okay. Andy, how do we discover what our spiritual path is, or if we even have one? I'm beginning to believe that my path is creating whatever I want. Any thoughts? Well, the best way to find out, Andy, is to do it. And what will either happen is that it will grow and expand, or it will be it will kind of meet the ego, where it will become kind of empty. It will lose meaning. It won't be that interesting. You'll find it wasn't really what you wanted, right? So moving into that is one way to find out, and the thing is that a lot of us want to know. We want to know before so that we don't make a mistake or we don't misstep. What's my path so that I don't go down the wrong path? But sometimes that's what needs to happen. We go down a few wrong paths and then we kind of learn and grow, and then we find the right path because of those missteps. So the best way to find out is to start going down that path. If you feel like, well, maybe it's, and usually there's a through line. The through line in my life has kind of been teaching, and teaching even through like example, things like that. So you might see a through line of creativity or kind of manifestation through your whole life. Gosh, if I really believe something, it really tends to happen or whatever. So you might see a through line, Andy, and that's for anybody. You might see a through line of your life, kind of things that are all connected. But the best way to find out is to move into it and see what happens. And either it will grow and expand, or it will turn into some kind of ego thing where it kind of dispels or gets less interesting or kind of peters out. And that's okay. Because that's what that's taught you, is that, okay, it's not this path. That's okay. That's still growth, right? Even having that realization of, oh, it's not that thing. And the other thing is, Andy, is that Eckhart Tolle says every single one of us, our first order of business here is to remember that we're a spirit, to be conscious, basically. Remember that we are a spirit having a temporary physical experience. We're an eternal spirit having a temporary physical experience, right? We're a consciousness having an experience of being on earth and playing out different scenarios to learn. That's the first thing. And so if you can remember that in every other situation, it's going to lead you in a different way, right? Than you might be normally led when you're just walking through life unconscious and falling for every drama and every single thing that's in your path. You're more aware and awake. You're more aware to what resonates with you and your spirit. The more you're making conscious choices rather than unconscious choices. So that's the first. That's the reason we're all here, is to remember. And then we go into that secondary thing that you're asking about, which is kind of outside of us. What do we do with that? What do we do now that we know, okay, I know my spirit and I'm more aligned with it. And now how do I express that in the world? That expression is part 2. The first part is remembering who you are. The second part is with that remembrance and that alignment you have now with your spirit, putting it into some kind of action in the world, or some kind of creativity or some kind of project. That's part 2. And those can vary. It can vary from time to time, from age to age. What may have attracted you and was really successful for you at 18, that may not be the case at 50. So that's always kind of evolving. And so being able to recognize that and let things go when you need to. And again, recognizing when, oh, this was really just my ego. kind of pulling me in this direction. I was just trying to get, attention or accolades. I see that now. So now let me go in this direction where I feel more in alignment with this, and it feels more like me and my spirit and being, authentic. We talked about authenticity at the very beginning and how important it is to be authentic, to be real, and the reason being authentic is so important is because that's the true alignment to our spirit. And that's the reason we're here. So, so I hope that answers that question. And Gina just has so many questions. Yeah. And Gina, this is, grief. We kind of talked about this a little bit and how it has kind of a grip on you. And grief is different for every person, right? It's different for everybody. And the other thing is that is coming up right now is that when we lose a loved one, we have to understand that or come to a place of acceptance that we now have a new reality. The reality before, when our loved one was here, is different from the reality now. It's two different realities. And I think that grief kind of lessens once you've fully accepted that this is the new reality. And you let go of the old reality and stop kind of trying to get back there. Because back here I was happy and everything was whole and everything was good. And now everything is hard and bad and sucks, and this person's not here. And as soon as we can kind of say, okay, this is the reality now. They're not here in the physical. They're still here in spirit. But I haven't quite figured out how to connect in with that. But this is, at least I know that this is the reality now, and there's no going back here. And I think, with grief, one of the things that keeps us there is that we're trying desperately to get back to a place where we were, and that is just not possible. It's not going to happen. And we're in a new space. We're in a new reality. And so looking at that reality and pulling out all the good stuff in that reality, who's still here? What things do I enjoy? What people and things came into my life since this happened? What have I learned about myself? What have I learned about spirituality? And kind of becoming very willing to accept the here and now, and kind of letting go of an old reality. It's really hard. It's really hard to do, but I think that that's one thing that holds us in that grief where we're just sad. It's that we're trying to get back and we just can't, and it exhausts us. It's heartbreaking. And so being able to move out of that space and let it go, realize that I'll never get back to that. But I can build in this new reality, and that the relationship, this is the most important thing, is that the relationship can still continue. That's why when I do the orb mediumship, people can see with their own eyes, my loved one is still here. And they don't have to wonder. They can see it. They can see me asking a question and they're responding in real time. So they know this is actually happening. This is really true. They're standing right there. I can see it with my own eyes. And that's one thing that it's doing, is it's helping people to be like, oh, in the here and now, they're still here. It's fine. And so what I hope that it's doing is helping them kind of manage that grief where you're kind of on the cusp of, do I go back or do I go forward? It's one tool, but there's lots of tools to be able to be in this reality now. and build on it, because it's not going to be like, oh, I accept the here and now, I accept what's happened, so now everything's going to be great. No, you build on it, and it becomes manageable. It's never going to be the same. When I was on vacation, I had this moment where I was like, to Adam, I said, I miss my mom and dad. I miss Cassie. And sometimes that loss feeling is overwhelming. It just drowns me. And I need to voice it and feel it, and also honor it, and be thankful too, because the fact that I feel that tells me how much I love these people and how much they love me. If that love wasn't there, you wouldn't feel that. You wouldn't be feeling loss. You wouldn't be feeling it. It's that love connection. So being thankful for those reminders of how much you love these people and how much they love you. Even recognizing that and moving into that space of, I hate this feeling, but I'm also thankful because I know that shows me there's love there. There's love there. And that's what connects us. That cannot be broken. It's an eternal spiritual principle. That love cannot be broken. It cannot be anything else. So I hope that gives you some at least some things to mull over, Gina. So we've kind of reached our end here, you guys, and we'll do this again. I have a guest next week, but we'll do this again, and I'll try to do it every other week because I think it's important to have these conversations with you guys. Dan Scott asked about green orbs. Green orbs are all about healing, and they can be about physical health, but it's usually about sending healing energy, physical healing, mental, emotional healing. That's usually what it has to do when it's a green orb. Yeah. Okay. Let me just hit this last one because I think it might be important too, because we're about to do this. We're about to pray. Can your guide suggest the best way to pray? A prayer needs to involve just a couple of things, one, what you're grateful for, what you have now that you're grateful for, and what you're hoping for. It has those two elements, and you can also express love, but gratitude, and then what you're hoping for, or what you're hoping to change, or what you're hoping to move towards. Those two elements need to be there. The wording, to whom, it doesn't really matter. It's what you're comfortable with, what makes sense to you. So if it's universe, if it's Mother, Father, God, if it's, a Mother Earth, if it's whatever wording you want to use, it's really just putting it out there. And sometimes it will be your guides who respond, or your higher self that responds, or the universe that responds. The response will come from many different places. But how you put it out there, everybody hears it. Your higher self will hear it. Your guides will hear it. Everybody hears it. Anything that's just put out there is kind of absorbed by spirit. So, and the intention is important too. Why am I praying? Well, my life is in a shambles right now. I want things to get better. So let me first talk about the things that are not in a shambles. I'm thankful for this. I'm thankful for that. Please help me to change the things that are in a shambles right now. Help me to have courage to, find ways to earn more money so that I can support my family. Really thinking about and praying with a certain type of intention is important as well. So I hope that is helpful, and use the language you're comfortable with. The language does not matter. Languages are just sounds that we make, right? It's the heartfelt intention. That's what's important. That's what's picked up. by, they know our heart, right? And the sounds are just sounds. They're just blah, blah, blah. It's just the language that we use, and language changes. If you're in a church, you use different dogma than if you are not in church, so it varies, it changes. Don't worry, don't get caught up in the language so much. Just use what language it feels right to you. But intention, gratitude, and then what you hope for, what you hope to change, what you're asking for help with. That those things need to be included. That's about it. And so we're going to do that right now. So we're just going to take a couple of minutes to kind of sit in silence and just pray. And I'll leave the prayer up to you. But what I'm hoping for us to kind of concentrate on is praying for truth and peace in the United States, so that all of these shenanigans that are going on with our voting and things like that right now will be kind of thwarted or met with positivity, and people being able to protect our rights to vote and protect our rights in general through this process. And also praying for peace, that people will not be intimidated, people will not be afraid, things like that. So courage and peace and truth for the United States, and then for Israel, the Palestinians, for Gaza, peace, 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 protection for those being still held, and that there will be freedom for all, freedom for the hostages, freedom for the Palestinians, freedom for people in Israel that want to see their country go in a certain direction. So peace, and maybe even love, and also freedom. Okay. So let's take just a couple of minutes to pray for those things, for both the United States and for what's happening in the Middle East right now, with the idea in mind that Israel is on a cusp of something. They're on the cusp of a change coming, and it can be tumultuous, as we learned in 2020, right? Those changes, those right before big change happens, it's tumultuous. But I think we need to just pray for that area of the world right now. So I'm going to time us for 2 minutes starting right now. And you can use words, you can use a color. If you think of peace as being blue, cover that area in blue. However you want to visualize or put this into motion is completely up to you. Okay. Okay. So we'll go ahead and start now. Okay, thank you, everybody. I can feel that. So something was definitely happening there. Thank you all so much. Oh, I think somebody's asking for my email, intuitiview@gmail.com. So if you're like, I know that I want a psychic reading, like I said, these are going to be just temporary between They'll begin in October and end in December. So they're coming up really quickly. If you know that you want to do that, just send me an email. I'll just make sure that you get first dibs at days and times. Or days, really. The time is you'll just get a recording. So it is mainly the date. And if you're interested in an orb mediumship appointment, those are still available. There are a few. I think there are still some available. So go ahead and definitely jump on that if that is something you want, because those are, again, just till the end of the year. Okay. So everyone have a great week. For people that took my psychometry class, I'll see you tomorrow. You'll get your link, your Zoom link today. So look for that. And I will talk to you guys soon. Have a good Sunday, everybody. Yeah, this has been a lot of fun, and I'll see you next week. Okay, bye.